Hey, it's Jasmine Chanel bringing you another YouTube. As routine, I'm bringing you content on travel, lifestyle, and answering any questions you drop below. In this video, I will be answering the top 10 questions I was asked when I was a flight attendant. If you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, then you know that I worked as an international flight attendant for 4 years for a private charter. If you're looking to become a flight attendant and you have no experience, I would suggest checking out this video right here where I go over all the details about the interview process and what to expect if you're considering becoming a flight attendant. Now, let's just jump straight into the top common questions I was asked while working as a flight attendant and even after. Number 1, how did I get the job? So to start off, I attended an open house that was 11 hours long out of SeaTac, Washington. And after I successfully completed that interview process, I went through a background check and then passed the drug test. And then I was sent to Atlanta, Georgia, where I completed a month-long training course for that airline. It was paid, yes, but it was only enough for me to get by with food and cosmetics through training. And that leads me to my number 2 question. Did I go to a flight attendant academy or any type of schooling to become a flight attendant? My answer is always no. And if you're considering going to some kind of academy, honestly, it's a waste of money. Most airlines want you to go through their training so that they can get you into their company's culture. So don't waste money going to academy or any type of training for flight attendants. All you honestly need is YouTube. Check out my video and others that give you all the details you need to know to successfully complete it and be hired for a job. I also interviewed for Delta Airlines, and one thing I found with their airline is they want you to know their brand, their mission, and their company's culture. So don't waste your time trying to figure out if you want to spend money elsewhere trying to get all you need to know. The company will invest in you. They will give you everything for you to successfully know how to complete the job duties. Do you get paid on layovers? Yes, every minute you're away from your home base, you are paid what's called a per diem. For me, that looked like $2.50 every hour away from my home base, and that sounds like little, but when you add that up on top of your hourly pay, it's pretty good because you're getting paid to travel anyway. And if you think about it, when I wasn't working, it was my time to spend on my rest periods. Which brings me to my next question. Is your time completely your time, and do you get to do what you want when you're on a layover? The short answer is yes. You get to do what you want when you're away. However, you need to abide by the country's laws or the state laws that you're in and conduct yourself professionally, because at the end of the day, the hotel is very familiar with your airline and that flight attendants come through, and if you embarrass anyone or your airline, they will let your supervisor or company know. So it is your free time, but you do need to conduct yourself respectfully in the culture you're in or the state you're in, so that way you can avoid from getting in any type of trouble that in the end will relay back to your company. Number 5, how much do you get paid? Well, every airline is different. You get paid per diem, and then you get paid your hourly rate when you're working on the airline, and that just varies. One thing I really loved about my job was you had the opportunity to make extra cash. So if you work on your off days, which I had 12 off days blocked in a row, I would either bid that in the beginning, the middle, or the end, depending on what was going on in my hometown. And when you worked those off days, you got an extra $200 plus your hourly pay plus your per diem. So adding all that, you could possibly make up to $3,000 extra a month, but every airline is different. Number 6, how did your partner feel about you being away for so long? Is it even possible to maintain a relationship as a flight attendant? Well, yes, it's possible to have a partner, a relationship. However, it is hard. For me, I was in Japan every week, so I was 9 hours ahead from the United States. So trying to find a time to communicate was sometimes difficult. I did keep a relationship for the first 4 years. By the end, we broke off. And I think a lot of it was due to friends being like, hey, we've seen Jasmine in Ireland, we've seen her in Germany, dang, she's just out there doing it. How do you feel? Doesn't that bother you? After a while, that gets to your head. So I think that had a little bit of influence on why we broke apart. But we did maintain that relationship for 4.5 years. And then at the end, we broke off. So it's possible, but it's hard. What is your schedule like as a flight attendant? Well, every airline is different. I worked for a private charter, so like I mentioned, I had 12 days off. Bid those lines wherever I needed those days off within the month. And I would go out the country every week, sometimes twice a week. Number 8, what was the hardest part about being a flight attendant? And for me, the hardest part was my sleep schedule. Mind you, my flights were 11 to like 16 hours just in one flight. So I would fly to Japan, and when I got there, it would be 1 p.m. And in order for me not to be exhausted or sleeping through my flight back to the States, I would have to stay up from 1 to at least 9 p.m. So with that being said, I would be up sometimes 24 hours in a day. The jet lag and the constantly being tired, my sleep schedule, when I would get back home, it would be 8 a.m. and then I would sleep the whole day because I was up all through the night flying back from Japan to the United States. And so when it was actually time for me to go to sleep in the States, my peers would be asleep, I would be wide awake. So adjusting to the jet lag and the different time schedules was hard for me. There's a flight attendant saying, sleep when you're tired and eat when you're hungry, because you'll learn time just doesn't exist. The only time that matters to you is when you need to be at the airport. And this brings me to question number 9, where a user commented, what if you don't want to permanently relocate? Is this still a good job for someone who doesn't want to do that? Every airline has what's called a home base. And for me, there was a few. There was SeaTac, there was Atlanta, there was Vegas, there was Dallas. For me, I didn't have to relocate. But my tip to you would be, find out the bases that that airline has right now, and if you even need to relocate, because maybe you're working for an airline where there's a home base in the city that's closest near you and you don't have to relocate. I would consider relocating just because it pushes you outside your limit. But if that's not a factor that fits into your situation, then you might not want to consider the job. But if you don't have anything holding you back, any liabilities that are holding you to that state, I would say get uncomfortable. I know a lot of flight attendants who didn't relocate. What they would do is they would commute back home after every flight. I could never do that, because after a flight you're exhausted, and once you're always working on the airline, you don't want to see a plane for the next 24 hours. So if you are willing to work a flight, work a couple days, and then be off and then commute back to your home base, then you might not have to relocate. But it is time consuming and it is very tiring to have to always spend your off time getting back home. Another tip I have is, when you're in flight attendant training, ask other flight attendants. There's not going to be another time where you have everyone in one room, in one space, where you can conversate and ask people if they want to do what's called a crash pad. And if you don't know what a crash pad is, that's where a group of flight attendants rent out a bed or a room. Most of the times it's just a bed for them to crash before their working flight. That way you could save money, but you'll always have a place to stay in your home base. I made lifelong friends with my classmates while being a flight attendant, and a lot of them lived together within the first year just so that they can get a routine set to see how they wanted to navigate their living space. But having a crash pad is a great way to be able to work as a flight attendant and not have to permanently relocate. Number 10, why did you quit being a flight attendant? Isn't that the dream job? For me, I have summarized exactly why I quit in this video, so I suggest you checking that out. But in a long story short, I was tired of being tired. And I started to hear myself complain about just being jet lagged and wanting to sleep all the time. And my energy went down tremendously. And I started to notice that. And for the company I worked for, there wasn't a lot of time to evolve within the company. I could have been a lead flight attendant or a supervisor, and that's pretty much it. So for me, I wanted to grow more within myself. I hadn't had any college experience, so I wanted to go back to school and get a degree in journalism and media productions, which I am practicing now. So I wanted to grow myself, and I will always travel internationally. I found a love for it with this job, and it's something that I'm forever grateful. And if you follow me, if you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, you know that just a year ago I went to Europe alone by myself. I packed a bag and spent 49 days in Europe so that I can challenge myself, I could learn, I could use what I learned to maneuver into a different country on my own. And I have so much content and tips and trips. If you're looking to travel alone and internationally, then I suggest you check out this video where I give you some solo tips on females traveling alone, which is myself, and how you can do that safely and successfully. All that information is there. But again, in a long story short, I was tired and I wanted to evolve and I wanted some college experience. And there you go. Top 10 questions I received while being a flight attendant. Until next time, don't forget to subscribe. My name is Jasmine Chanel, spelled with 2 N's, Jasmine Channel. Peace.